Brand disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed by individuals on this platform, the callers plus invited guests, are their own. The information you hear does not reflect the overall views of all parties associated with this brand. We encourage everyone to research all things heard live or via archive for edification purposes. Discretion is advised.
Don't touch that dial. You're now listening to Debate Talk Free Radio.
So my first special guest is my brother, MariEL. Welcome to the show.
Shalom, family. How y'all doing tonight?
Doing pretty good, man. What's going on with you, brother?
Man, hanging, moving across the country so far, man. So just tuning in and trying to get my opinion about this.
All right, so you find out MariEL is on tour right now? You on tour? Okay.
Somewhere, you can say that, somewhere. Pushing goods across the country, trying to keep that nation fed.
That's all good, man. Hey, do what you need to do, man. I appreciate you being here, brother. Appreciate you being here. My next special guest has been on the show. You already know her from the Relationship Challenge. This is Emunah. Welcome to the show. Hey, Emunah, you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Welcome to the show. How you doing?
Thanks for having me. I guess I was on mute. All praise be to the Most High for another opportunity to have a discussion, hopefully edifying. And, I'm doing well. It's cold down here in these parts, but, other than that, we're doing all right.
Yeah, it's like 15 degrees here in New York City, so I know what you're talking about.
Adness.
Yeah. Well, luckily, we didn't get a lot of snow, though. They said there's going to be a lot of snow, but luckily you didn't get that snow hit over here in New York. But, yeah, I appreciate you being here. Check out Emunah's channel. She actually covered this topic on her channel. Let the people know about that.
Okay, the name of the channel on YouTube is Soul Anonymous. Actually, I was working on the second part because it's so heavy. But the name of the channel on YouTube is Soul Anonymous, and I covered the first part. I guess I'll be discussing it. I'm kind of looking at the situation a little bit differently than most, and I guess I'll get into that a little more tonight. But I'm looking at the childhood trauma and injuries, an area that I tend to focus in, and kind of looking at the clues and evidence that's left on record through testimonies, people who've known him, and his own book, autobiography called Solar Coaster, to kind of understand what we're working with, because many people say he's sick, he has a mental illness, but they haven't been able to put a finger on what exactly is the sickness or the cause thereof or the illness. So that's kind of the direction I'm coming from with this discussion.
All right, so family, make sure you go check out the YouTube channel. I'm going to leave all links in the description box so you won't miss anything. You can also reach out to every special guest that's on the panel. I'm still, Miha'el, if you're out there, do press number 1, fam. Press number 1. There's a lot of callers, so you got to press number 1. Try to find you. And, of course, Sister Reese, if you're out there, press number 1 as well. Press number 1, and we'll try to find you. But my next special guest is Sister Danny. Sister Danielle, welcome to the show. Are you there, 530, Sister Danielle?
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. What's going on? How are you?
I'm wonderful, absolutely amazing. I'm honored to be on the show today, honored to be on the panel. Looking forward to the discussion.
All right, I'm glad to have you here to get some of your input on this particular topic. Welcome to Debate Talk Free Radio. All right, so let me see.
Thank you. I just also wanted to...
Go ahead.
All right, I just wanted to also add the reason why this topic is important and passionate to me is because of my own personal experience with sexual abuse in our community. That's something that my organization and even my radio show covers, and I'm currently writing a book about. So this is something that I'm just really passionate about, and I'm really excited to talk about it.
Hey, we're going to need those links. We're going to need those websites. I can promote that for you. Make sure you send that to me and put it out there.
Absolutely. D&D Live, I'll send that to you.
I appreciate it. All right, so while I look for the other special guests, we're going to start off with my brother, MariEL, that's on tour right now. Let him speak about this particular topic, Again, for the family, the number is 319-527-6239. You can also chime in, family. We welcome the listening audience to call into the show. The only rule that we have is that you got to keep it clean, keep it professional, no curse words. Believe it or not, we have people that listen with the kids and even the elderly. So, MariEL, I'm going to give you the first question. Let's begin by getting everyone's breakdown on what they watched. What did you think about the Lifetime channel documentary called Surviving R.Kelly, and how did it impact you after watching it? Go ahead.
Well, like I watched it maybe about 3 weeks ago. I kept on seeing it on social media a lot, so I was just like I got curious and stuff like that. I've heard with the whole R. Kelly sex tape came out, heard about him and Aaliyah and all kind of stuff like that. And when, I was little, I hear like a lot of like controversial or whatsoever conspiracy theories, coming out about different other people. Like, we just had the whole, Bill Cosby ordeal. We was dealing with that. So I was kind of like, at first, you think he really did it? Maybe, I don't know. But then as I started watching the documentary, and so many people was coming forth about it, and just kind of thinking about, listening to his songs, the more I listen to the songs, and then, there's a lot of comedians that starts talking about it. Dave Chappelle was really big about it when his season came out, or his show was out. And as I started to watch it and actually watch all 6 episodes of it, it was kind of mind blowing. And I couldn't really put it past him. Like seeing how his upbringing was, how he was as a child and stuff like that, being exposed to sexuality, at a very young age and stuff. I can definitely see that, and as well as the whole idea of with men, not even just dealing with young people or pedophilia, but just the whole idea of wanting to have these sexual fantasies being fulfilled, and then having the idea of, well, if you prey onto younger people or if you prey onto vulnerable people, then it's more easy to obtain. So therefore, the more easier to obtain, the more you can do it. And if you slowly are getting away with it, then it's kind of hard to turn that off. So I I really believe that it could be like a illness that or whatsoever it had, but at the same time, I'm still on the idea that it was probably just his choice or whatsoever, because the simple fact that it, like the whole idea of having sex or whatsoever, it can become an addiction. So the simple fact that it's an addiction, the easier to obtain the addiction, and the more that you're getting away with it. Whether it could be drugs, it could be just about anything, like this food or anything. The whole idea of having an addiction, and it being so easy to obtain, it's harder to break off. So that's like a drug addict. Like that's like you say, oh, okay, I can do this for like a couple of months or something like that, and then that's you look up and it's years down the line, and you so deep into the hole of it that when you kind of wake up or everything's kind of blowing up in your face, then it's like reality sets in. With R. Kelly, I don't think that reality too much set in with him. So the more he started doing it and years started going by, he kind of just got free-handed with it. And how I've seen there's now being two sides. Like some people saying oh, leave him alone. Or that's not true. All these stories are not true. And then you have another side of saying that, oh, it is true. It also shows me that people with money or are in high places or have a big frame in society can get away with a lot more things than people who don't have that type of ability or influence or power or riches. So it was very eye-opening for me in the sense of how power can, or money or wealth or whatsoever, can actually have an influence on people's morals. How people view morals or whatsoever. This could, if this was like a normal, common person or whatsoever, then, oh, yeah, it would have been taking a whole different offense or something like that. But just some fact that he had so much influence and power and people were so influenced by him, he felt like how they kept on saying, he felt untouchable. So, it was definitely an eye-opener for me when I saw it. It kind of blew my mind about him.
Yeah, man, definitely. I appreciate you. Once again, this is Surviving R.Kelly Recap, family, and we're going to be talking about also harboring pedophiles right here on Debate Talk Radio. Some people actually know people that engaged in that kind of activity. Some people keep it a secret. Brothers, cousins, fathers, mothers. What do we do in the situations when people that actually have family members, friends that actually engage in pedophilia? We're going to talk about all those things tonight right here on Debate Talk Radio. The number is 319-527-6239. Let's go to my next special guest who's here. This is Sister Reese Roberts. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
All right, let the family know a little bit about yourself as far as, what you do, a little website information, a little plug before we begin. Okay.
Oh, sure. So I specialize in the study of human consciousness, and I really have a huge focus on studying relationships at this point. But my intention is to share a message about collective consciousness in our community and really how our DNA metaphysically has a lot of information that we can draw from in order for us to heal ourselves. So I study quite a bit just by interviewing people, connecting with people, developing relationships, and studying the information passing in those relationships. So my website, if you want to kind of dig into what I do, I have a personal blog and podcast down on my website at www.reeseroberts.com. And I also have a professional business services company that really does like small business type work and also some corporate training. That website is www.serveincorporated.com. And serve is spelled without the E on the end. So if you have any kind of questions about consciousness and things like that, that's pretty much what I study.
All right, there you go. The Sister Reese right there. Make sure you go check out her Facebook page where she have a live streaming going on, and also I'm going to leave the link to her website in the description box as well. But, yeah, what did you think about the Lifetime channel series, Surviving R.Kelly? Did you watch the whole thing? What was your take on that?
I didn't watch it only because my heart is just not in a place right now. I watched something else that had to do with a heavy rate of abortion in our community, and it just stung me so bad. I couldn't even take more child abuse in my spirit. I'm a bit of a sponge when it comes to energy. I just kind of soak things up. I do have opinions about the whole thing because, like I said, I study human consciousness, and to me, the entire situation with R. Kelly, from his upbringing and his exposure, like the brother just talked about, him having these situations happening to him or these occurrences happening at a very early age, it of course affected his mentality going forward into life. And so there's an overarching truth, I think, that needs to be examined here, and that is our code of silence. We have so much activity happening in our homes, and we're not acknowledging it. We're not examining it. We're not allowing it to be expressed. And I know just from personal experience and personal relationships I've had with my friends and myself even, that when you're a child in a home, there are certain things that you're just not allowed to say. And your parents will tell you a lot of times you have to stay in your place, stay in a child's place, don't say that, don't talk back. And to me, I understand it has a lot to do with respect, but I feel because of social conditioning and because of our oppressive environment, our parents have a tendency to simply say, or they use that tactic as more of a way to shut the child out or to silence the child totally. And so when you come to a place where you have a child being abused and they still have this mentality of, I can't speak. What if they get upset? What if this is my fault? A child expresses themselves in a household, they get rained down on if they feel like it was their fault or they may have made a mistake. And so this is a culture that we're creating which harbors the perfect breeding ground for pedophiles, if you ask me, because they recognize vulnerability. They recognize a child who does not have guardianship or proper mentorship or proper identity in themselves. They can see it typically because it is in them. Like we are talking about right now, R.Kelly has suffered the same offense, the same thing that he's projecting onto the other children. And again, this is because these are repressions that he has been living with that he's not been able to express until he's in the presence of a minor where he expresses it by offending. So, right. I think we really need to go through our community and we need to address those issues about silence. We cannot silence our children. We have to let them speak and express themselves, even if we don't like what they're saying, even if what they have to say might seem too grown or whatever, whatever the issue is. We have to learn how to recognize that our children are not just children. They're human beings, and they have valuable emotions. They have valuable thoughts. They have valuable, things to say, and we need to listen.
All right. That's the input from Sister Reese right here on Debate Talk Radio, the Roundtable episode 43. You know that number, 319-527-6239. I see my brother Miha'el made it. Miha'el, welcome to the show.
Hey, shalom, South Time, man. It's a long time, man, since I've been on here. It's good to have you back.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you, man. What's going on with you, man? What's happening?
Man, you see your brother out there, man. I'm just still out there in the field trying to do the work, man, the best I can. With the limited resources that I do have, with the Most High making it for me. Of course, I want to give all honor and praise to the Most High God of Israel. I thank you for having me on. It's an honor, and I like to say peace to everybody on the round table.
No doubt. That's Miha'el, man. I'm going to have his link in the description box as well. He's putting a lot of social media work out there, in the debate league and all of that good stuff. I see you, my brother, putting in that work. I see you. Yeah, man. Well, let the people know, what do you think about that R.Kelly, Surviving R.Kelly? Let us know what you think about that, man. Did you watch the whole thing? What are your thoughts?
Well, those that know me, and even those that follow my channel, especially my Hebrews in the Hood channel, know that I haven't dealt with it. I even publicly said that I wasn't jumping on it at the time when it was, the hot topic. And I explained why. I was like, I really feel with our people, we are the most easily distracted people in the universe. And so it's like whenever you see something like that, R.Kelly, this celebrity, this black brother, doing these horrible things to these sisters, and just being a freak and all that type of stuff. It's somebody, it's some type of government policy going on where they finna kill all us in the water. They about to blow up a planet or something. We just easily distracted. So that's why I didn't deal with it as far as R. Kelly the man. But the subject I dealt with indirectly. For example, I did a lesson a few days ago about, you have brothers with these type of desires that want to be with, abnormally young girls. You know what I'm saying? Not young women, but girls a lot of time. And you either have them that, say they follow the word of God in scriptures, and they actually try to find scriptures to justify, talking about the age of her flower and all that. So I basically made a video showing that even according to the scriptures, that wasn't true. And this is where I think it's very relevant at, because it all goes back to us coming back to our true culture and heritage. We were not uncivilized, untamed beasts as they make us out today. And if me being an Israelite, many say African American, me knowing that this was our culture, I studied it in depth, and I saw that things like flower of age literally meant what it said. What does a flower do? It blossoms. Blossom is almost synonymous with the word mature. You see what I'm saying? So it doesn't mean, because people go to Leviticus, the 15th chapter, and I think like the 32nd verse and the 36th verse, or the 24th verse and the 36th verse, and they see where the period was referred to as a flower. You know what I'm saying? It says you sleep with on her flowers. But when you read it in context in other spots, if it says flower of her age, it's actually talking about maturing. So all you had to do was study the culture, and you would see that it was up to the discretion of the father, which we don't have in the communities these days. That's one problem, and the mother. And they would know whether their child or their daughter was ready after she came on her period and started to grow and mature, if she was ready to be a wife. And a lot of times you saw them be wives at those abnormally low ages was due to some type of political reasons, or some with another family, when we would give our daughters to your son and your son to our daughter. And I'd just like to say on that same note, if anybody ever get a chance to prove what I'm saying, you could read 1 Samuel, the 2nd chapter and 33rd verse. And you go in there and read that. The Lord said that I will cause that no man in this house will go past the flower of their age. So you mean to tell me a man got a period? So that's actually what it's talking about. It's talking about growing. So to get back to the original story of all this, concerning them, and I didn't watch much of it. I've seen clips of it, because we don't really have to. Growing up on the south side of Chicago, you know people who know people who know people. And you used to hear the stories like, he up at the high schools and all that type of stuff. And he wasn't the only one. And that's why we got to go back to our it starts with the parenting in the house, because, there was a lot of cats out there, that the cat on the corner that was in his 20s was coming up to the high school, the boys in high school trying to holler at the fine girl, the fine sophomore girl, but she hopping in the car with this dude, and he's 20-some years old, because he got the rims on his car. So where do this start at? And it starts with both the man and the woman in that house, and then it's really unfortunate, because a lot of times we're not looking for lifetime partners. We thinking just at that moment. So you don't know when you messing with this dude. Say you a sister, you messing with this dude, and everything about him seem right, but you kind of know you're not going to be with him forever. And then when that happens, now you go get another dude who you know even less about. Now you already got a kid by this first dude. This little girl 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. Now he looking at another man's daughter growing. He has no real connection with him. He's thinking carnally, because he got a sick mind. You see what I'm saying? So this type of thing is responsibility that has to be put back on the family, man, both the man and the woman. And so that's really my outlook on it.
All right, I see we got more and more people listening to the show. Once again, we appreciate you out there, family. That number to call in, y'all, is 319-527-6239. You can also chime in, listen to the audience. Just press number 1, and we'll add you in the conversation later on. You can also send me an email at salshowtime77@gmail.com. That's salshowtime77@gmail.com, or debatetalkforyou@gmail.com. And I'll gladly read out your questions or your comments to the special guests on the panel. Let's go to my sister, Emunah. All right, what are your thoughts on the Surviving R.Kelly show? How did it impact you?
Oh, my goodness. It sent me to a tailspin, of which I'm currently in. I did take the time. It took a while. I had to watch it in parts because it's kind of long, to watch all of the testimonies that were shared on the documentary. And because I'm a researcher by nature, that wasn't sufficient for me. So then I wanted to listen to the reading. There's a sister on YouTube who's reading. I mean, you can also purchase the books, but it kind of sent me down a path to kind of understand the commonality of those who are coming forward and saying that this happened to them. And in that, I saw a pattern, and through that pattern, I then read his book, and I didn't know he had written a book, because to tell you the truth, I wasn't really vested in R. Kelly. I don't remember anything past the 90s, early 90s, you know what I mean? So for how many years I wasn't really vested or knew any of what was really going on. And so a lot of this stuff was really new to me. And so essentially it led me to not the documentary, the thing that I shared, the findings that I shared on the YouTube channel named Unraveling R.Kelly, Is He Brain Damaged? And why I begin to explore that possibility is, A, he mentioned it in the book, and B, before the things that have recently come out through his brother Kerry as well as himself, we see that there are some unanswered questions, even when you compare Kelly, who was also, or Carrie, who was also exploited and molested, and you compare the two, and you see that both of them dealt with it differently. And so R. Kelly took his to another level, you know what I mean? And so I wanted to kind of look at what that was, and my studies have brought me to a wild, crazy conclusion, of which I won't conspiracy theory out. It's not a conspiracy theory, it's supported, but I won't go all the way down the rabbit hole, but I would just say, as the brother was just speaking about, it has to do with the environment. It had to do a lot with his mother, in my estimation, and the absence of his father, and the things that happened before, while he was in vitro, before he actually came in. And the reason why is because one of the things that most people highlight is the fact that he's, what some are saying is illiterate, and he might possibly have dyslexia, but he's on record as saying he thinks it's more than dyslexia and that they think it's brain damage. And so I kind of explore, if it is brain damage, what could have possibly caused the brain damage. And what I found is that essentially an exposure to alcohol in the womb will cause a lot of the things that we are seeing, like lack of judgment, like people who testify that he has a lack of judgment, a lack of discernment. They call it fetal alcohol syndrome. And if you read the symptoms of fetal alcohol syndrome and you read the experience that people are saying is R. Kelly the persona, we see a lot of the things line up, like literally this inability to connect with people your own age. And so it's manifesting to us as the public, and it very may be it's on the surface pedophilia, but behind that what's pushing it more in his particular case can be, this is just my observation, it can be attributed to what he possibly was experiencing in the womb. So like I said, I went far from the documentary and ended up over here and then begin to work my way back towards the testimonies that were given. But for me, before I could understand, I was trying to understand the allure of the individual. And I would just say this because it's Debate Talk for You, that this entertainment industry that makes people into idols and makes these celebrity idols for people to worship is one of the key factors that we should consider when we're talking about this case, because many people subscribe to him. Many people decided, according to them, to do certain things because he was, quote, R. Kelly. And so the pass that he was given is because of this idolatrous thought that the industry has projected to the world. And as we're having this conversation, hopefully we can keep that also in the forefront of our minds when speaking about why would people do something, after the trial. Why would you do it anyway? That was one of the questions I had. After you saw the trial, after you saw the 7 years of people saying what they were saying and bringing these reports, that it couldn't happen to you. And it's not victim blaming. It's really just trying to understand the situation that you're faced with. So hopefully I did a little justice. Again, like I said, I do go into deeper detail and would be having a follow-up session that's exploring the possibility of the points that I forwarded. So I'll relinquish the mic.
All right, that was Emunah. Once again, it's the Roundtable episode 43, family. The Roundtable episode 43. That number is 319-527-6239. Let me go to Sister Danielle. Let's get some of your thoughts. Or, how did you watch the Surviving R.Kelly series? How did it impact you?
Actually, I watched the entire series. I was so drawn in because it was personal to me. I watched it all in one night. I sat up, I cried, I pick up on a lot of energy as well, so I felt the energy from the victims in the video, And not only did I watch the documentary, I watched after videos and other interviews. I did some more research myself. And some of the things that kind of stood out to me that some of the other panel members mentioned is he wasn't the only one. As I remember and I reflect back, R.Kelly's first album came out when that was my generation. That's when I was listening to music. I remember on Christmas, my first Walkman that I got the 12-play cassette tape to go along with it as a gift from my family. And I listened to that. I knew every song. I obviously idolized Aaliyah. So it was okay and acceptable in that generation to have an older boyfriend. It was like ideal. And a lot of girls that I went to high school with had older boyfriends that would pick them up, give them money, spoil them, and so forth. Also keep in mind, during that generation, that was also the generation of crack cocaine. So our parents were getting addicted to drugs. We were poor. We didn't have money. So when you're dating an older guy that has influence or that has a drug dealer or whatever, he can buy you things and supply things for you that you may not be able to get on your own or at home. But I think about even the songs back then, Del Bid DeVoe, you think about Backstage, Underage, Adolescent. How many of us sing that song and don't even pay attention to the lyrics? And back in that generation, there were sayings like, if you old enough to bleed, you old enough to breathe. So I'm very happy to hear the brother mention in Scripture how that wasn't so. But it was a survival mentality. And I personally went through sexual abuse and assault before I was out of diapers. And, I'm writing a lot about that in my book, and I cover that on my personal channel. But it was an experience for me that went on until I was about 16 years old. And for me, initially you tell, but nothing really happens because, number one, you are afraid of what authorities are going to do to your family members. So you don't really want to go tell. You think that you're going to have repercussions against people in your family. Maybe they're not going to believe you. They're going to turn their back on you. You're going to lose their support. And not much is done. And then you end up being embarrassed, ashamed, and still having to be around the abusers because nobody made them leave the family or nobody held them really accountable. So then it makes the victims just be quiet. And if it continues, you don't want to tell anymore because you don't want to endure the shame anymore when you know nothing is really going to happen. Plus, therapy is not something that's encouraged in the African-American community. So it's very rare for a victim to get therapy. After they have that family talk about this is not acceptable, they expect the victim to just deal with it and get over it and not bring it up. That's just a family secret. But hurt people. And victims react differently. And victims create more victims. And so people that don't get addressed and don't get held accountable like R.Kelly was a victim, create people like perpetrators like R.Kelly, in my opinion. But when I watched the documentary, there was nothing uncommon about that. That was something that was so familiar. That was something that I saw in our communities all the time. It wasn't anything that shocked me. It was hurting me that it was just now being talked about because he has so much influence and popularity. And it's like people with little influence, people of little popularity don't get that attention, and we go through it every day, all day. And, I covered a lot of that in a live video that I went into today, and I don't want to really go on and on about it, but that was my initial response to the documentary.
All right. Once again, the number is 319-527-6239. We got a lot of special guests here tonight right here on Debate Talk for you talking about the Surviving R.Kelly documentary that came on the Lifetime channel. Again, the number is 319 if you want to chime in, 319-527-6239. Now, the people that watched it and people that are fans of R.Kelly, they're actually trying to, pass the buck, and, there's a lot of blame gaming going on right about now. There's some people saying that, it's the parents' fault, why do these parents let their children or a teenager, do anything with R. Kelly. Some people are blaming his staff around him. I mean, let's talk about that. Who is do we blame the parents in the situation? Are the parents at fault? Let's talk to Emunah. Let's go to Emunah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I saw that as well, Brother Sal. I saw, a lot of, and like I said, who's accountable, and there are some people who are willing to take the blame, like his ex-manager, Demetrius Smith, for the part that he played, and he did a number of interviews post the documentary because he says that he was misquoted. You have some people who are willing to accept responsibility for the part they played. So I think because of the magnitude of, as the sister just said, because of the space and the spotlight that the individual is and the celebrity that he comes with, there are many people who can shoulder this responsibility from those, like I said, from where I'm looking at, it goes earlier than what we're seeing because everything starts in the dark and then it manifests in the light. And so there are people along the way that didn't hold him accountable, didn't discipline him, didn't really show him that there was consequence for his action. There were some people who coddled him because he had a gift and because he had a talent and because people had, based on what I'm observing, ulterior motives for coddling him, for shielding him from consequence, so that because one person referred to him as the goose that, laid the golden egg. And so because there was so much to benefit from him that his, quote, gift was exploited and now when all of the bricks have come tumbling down, we want to or some people want to just blame one individual. This huge transgression could not have continued if along the way somebody or somebodies were held accountable. You know what I mean? And so I say that to say for those, like it's on record, those who took payoffs, those who were bought, their silence was bought. And the Torah says, and I wanted to look it up in Exodus 23:8, you shall not take no gifts, for the gift blind the wise and pervert the words of the righteous. And that's what kept coming to my mind, is that those who took payouts to not say anything, to make it go away quietly, didn't warn those who were to come that, hey, there's a problem right here. And so all throughout, I would just say, like I said before, there's enough blame to go around for the part that each and every one played in making him come 30 years down the line. You know what I'm saying? That's a long time. So, yeah, that's my thoughts.
Yeah, because, I'm watching the feedback from a lot of people that support R. Kelly, and, they point fingers everywhere, and some of the parents, they're saying, they're going on radio shows and they're saying, listen, we didn't know R. Kelly was like that, stuff like that, even though, the whole Aaliyah situation came out years ago. Some of them said they were also aware of that, but at the same time, they didn't think, some of them didn't believe that whole Aaliyah situation was true. So let's go to MariEL. MariEL, what did you think? Who's to blame here? Are the parents to blame? Hey, MariEL, you there?
Quick, I was on mute. I can't really say that the parents are to blame to it. I mean, as a parent myself, I kind of, want my daughter to, reach her goal. Like, she has a goal. Like, my daughter, she's not old enough to really know what she wants to do in life. Right now, she wants to be a princess. So I let her be a princess. But, when she gets of age, I do, want her to live out her dreams. And I've seen, like, in several cases in this series where a lot of the women or the girls or whatsoever women were pursuing certain dreams about it, and they seen that this was like an opportunity through R. Kelly. I mean, they seen what he did for Aaliyah and other people, where they kind of rose to fame, kind of rose to stardom. They got exposure and everything like that. So, like, as a parent, like, when you see, like, oh, your child is happy and the way she's doing, she see that, oh, like, this is an opportunity for them and stuff, they kind of let down their walls a little bit, let down their defenses and stuff. So I can't really blame the parents in that sense, though. It was a lot of parents that did take, the oath of silence with the money and stuff like that. But I mean, even then, I mean, it could be just a simple fact that, you know, they didn't want their daughter to be exposed out, or, you know, didn't want to have to go through so much thing. And also, you know, some of the parents, you know, you can say, well, oh, I see 6 figures or whatsoever, so I'll take this hush money or something like that, and I could do a lot with it. But at the same time, though, what I did learn is that, you know, as a parent, you know, you have to know when to allow your child to actually, when it's the right opportunities, or if it's a good opportunity. You have to kind of explore it, because there was one case where the parents just kind of like just let the daughter go because of the simple fact that, you know, they didn't want her to rebel, or didn't want to you know, the child to be mad at them or something like that. But, you know, that's in the space where, you know, they are trying to be their friend and stuff like that. And we can't allow that, you know, as well. We have to be mindful of that as parents as well, to, you know when it is right or what is wrong to allow your child to do. But yeah, that's kind of like my thought onto that. Like, I wouldn't really blame the parents or anything like that. I really put majority of the blame onto R.Kelly, because he does have he did have that power or that influence to actually let a lot of these people who was coming to him strictly for the music and to be exposure in the industry, and kind of manipulate it. So I see that he was using that more of a manipulative role or whatsoever, or weapon to get what he wants, where that wasn't the intentions of it. Nor I don't think that even in the beginning the parents had that kind of mindset, where instead of, you know, the ones that was like a little bit closer to nowadays, where all these sex tape came out, the whole idea with the Leah came out, all these theories and or what sort of controversial topics came out about him, then yeah, those I can really say that, yeah, you should have had kind of kept your eye a little bit closer to this, or you should have been like, no, I'm not going to do this, or I'm not going to allow my child to do that. But again, I would say it's more of like the parents was trying to allow their child to live out their dreams or whatsoever, to be exposed into the music industry or live out their dreams. So, but that's my take on to that. And also, can I give a quick shout out? I want to give a shout out to Reese. Like that's my sister right there. We grew up together. We had that's funny that we are the same show. But I want to give a shout out and definitely check out her channel. She has a lot of information on today. What's up, Reese? What's going on?
Hey, man. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. I want to also do a quick little plug, too, because if anybody has teenagers, I have a training program that I just developed for teenagers to learn the ways of human consciousness by way of learning how to properly complete or execute research, and also developing debate skills. So the program is all online, and we're open enrollment right now until February the 22nd. We'll be closing it down. But I have about 45 slots for students who are interested in alternative learning.
All right, no doubt. That's what we do on Debate Talk. We do the plugs. We do the plug game. You know, we do the plug game out here. You know, we do. Debate Talk.
It's all about the community. Absolutely. There we
go. All right, I see we got a caller standing by. We're going to go, of course, to all the other special guests on the round table, but let's get this caller real quick. 832-245, you're live.
Hey, guys. Shalom, everybody. It's Brother Robert Reed. How's it going, everybody? I just tuned in. I just heard the brother just a minute ago, so I didn't get to hear the other takes. So if I, repeat something, it's because I just got on. But I did hear the brother for the most part, and he was talking about, not solely placing the blame on the parents. And I just feel like the parents do take part of the blame because, you don't want to just leave the care of your child, with another adult, especially in a world that you may not understand, you don't know that much about, which would, necessitate you staying and sticking closer to your child, never leaving your child with, celebrity or not, with another person that you don't know well, and I think part of that is the allure of fame and fortune because, many of the young women were looking for their big break, so to speak, while others just wanted to be around and associate themselves with somebody who's in the business, or someone who is famous and stuff like that. So, no, I wouldn't put 100% blame on the parents, but they do have to shoulder some of that for just kind of being naive. I mean, just the very fact that, you don't know a whole lot about the business, the ins and outs, which would, like I said before, you should want to know more and stick a little bit closer so that you can understand. But I was watching the show and a lot of things, kind of stuck out to me. Basically, just the overwhelming evidence that was there that was levied against him. I know he's, I guess, technically not found guilty, with all these, delayed trials and buying everyone off and things like that. But I know for the most part, I mean, I can't imagine anyone really defending his actions. I can't imagine that just simply because it's just an overwhelming amount of evidence against them, the pattern after pattern. I mean, something, you can see one thing, coincidence, two things, coincidence, but this guy, I mean, it's a laundry list of things that are going on. And I think it kind of shows the power of, money, celebrity, just buying people's silence, even when someone had him dead to rights, because a lot of times I was wondering, well, where are the parents? But then when the parents were involved, then he just bought their silence, So I just think that speaks volumes. And obviously his ex-wife, Andrea's, testimony, I think that speaks volumes. Sparkle, I think her testimony speaks volumes. It's just so many things. And for people, I don't know where everyone lands, but for people to be like, well, they're just trying to tear him down and this and that, I'm like, it's too much. It's just too much. But I don't want to ramble on, guys. That was just my, initial thoughts. Unfortunately, I don't have any questions just yet because I haven't, I haven't listened long enough. But I'll hang on the line and listen to you guys.
All right, thank you for that. I believe that was the voice of Brother Robert Reed. This is Emunah Y'srael playing emergency host style. Had to step away for a second. And so I believe it's Brother, Sister Danielle, what are your thoughts on what Robert Reed just shared or anything that you've heard thus far? Oh, wow. So I'm not on the board, y'all, so now I just realized that there's a possibility that everybody is on mute.
This is Brother Robert. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but Sal just stepped away, and so I had to step into the whole seat. But now I'm realizing that I'm calling names, and there's a possibility that they're on mute, so I'm not on the board. So we're going to have a discussion until he comes back.
No problem.
If that's all right with you. This is all impromptu, y'all, so hold on to your head wraps. So you say you just stepped in, and you said that that you would say that the parents had some level of responsibility. To what degree? Because there's a lot of people, like you said, there's a lot of people who would say that R.Kelly, he should have known better, he's out there. What are your thoughts of possibly entertaining, as many people are saying, even Iyanla Vanzant went on record, I believe it was on the Breakfast Club, of saying that he reached out to the show, but he has issues and she doesn't think that he needs jail time, that he needs counseling or therapy. What are your thoughts on that?
I think he needs both. I think he does need a level of jail time and counseling, and I think sometimes people won't come face to face with themselves until they are forced to do so, until you have to think about your actions, until you have to have that solitude and that focus. And I think jail is the only thing that's going to do it. And then, of course, I do believe that counseling is in order. But if I can backtrack just for a moment and a half a step, I'm not putting all the blame, to answer your question out to what degree, I'm not putting all the blame on the parents. I think most of the blame, okay, I don't know what percentage we would put on it, but I think most of the blame would go to R.Kelly. This is a grown man, and he should know better. He should know better. You should not take advantage of, a parent's ignorance or naivete. You should not take advantage of, young underage girls. To me, that's just statutory, So, I mean, he should shoulder most of the blame. I'm just putting part of it, a little bit of it, on the parents. I'm putting none of it on the young girls, pretty much none of it, because they're just, young, naive, 14, 15 years old, trying to, they're just caught up in stardom and stuff. It's unfortunate. But again, I definitely think that jail time is in order, and I definitely think, counsel. I have nothing against counseling, but since I didn't catch the beginning, did you have some opening thoughts on the entire situation?
Oh yeah, I'm back, y'all. Sorry, I had to step away for a second, guys. I'm back, but yeah, Rob. Everybody just spoke about the show and what do they think about it, and we'll talk about are the parents to blame? That was the next question as far as the parents are concerned. There's a lot of people playing the blame game. They're trying to say, this is all the parents' fault and stuff like that. So, but
no,
you're gonna stand by with us. You're gonna stand by.
Yeah, I'll stand by.
All right. So once again, it's the Roundtable episode 43, y'all. The number's 319-527-6239. Let's go around the round table, family. Let's go around the round table. Let's go to Sister Danielle. What are your thoughts as far as the parents are concerned? Are they to blame for the whole situation? Do we put the whole brunt for the whole situation on the shoulders of the parents? Go ahead.
My opinion on whether or not the parents are to have the blame or responsibility is this. I do think they should have some responsibility. This is why, in two parts. Number one, because I read a statistic today, and I don't have the resource with me, but it said that 60% of African American women have experienced some type of sexual assault by the time that they are 18. That's a high number, and a large number of that is contributed to people that they trusted, people within the family. And then you look at how many of those are actually reported and held accountable, that number is very low. So I think that there is some accountability there. Like the caller said, I think that they're leaving their children exposed. They're being very naive. And then also how they handle the situation once a child reports it, I think holds a lot of responsibility. Whether or not they get that child therapy, whether or not they get that child help, how they handle whether or not they believe that child. And I think that has a lot to do with the healing process. Even if they have doubts, even if they have fears about that, I think the way that they handle that just needs to be more educated. So I think that they do have some accountability on why it happens, how it happens, and the healing process afterwards and the lack thereof.
All right, good input. Let's go to Sister Reese. Yeah, who's to blame in the situation? Who's to blame? Are you blaming the parents? Is it all their fault? Go ahead.
I have difficulties with blaming people in the situation because I have just a deeper understanding of what the conditioning has to do with the entire thing. And if I have to place the blame, I would put it really on just that, social conditioning. It goes deeper than just who's at fault, because then you have to look at why are they at fault? What was it that went into their own mental dysfunction, their own mental processes that caused them to act the way they acted? And honestly, culturally, for me, pedophilia is not something that's generally accepted in our culture historically, prehistorically. Our ancient history doesn't have much in the way of homosexual trends. I mean, I understand homosexuality may have happened in our culture in ancient days. It may have been an anomaly, but it wasn't the culture. It wasn't the trend, because we understood our natural order. And it's the same thing to me with pedophilia, is that our natural understanding of natural order tells us that, just naturally, we know not to have sex with children. And so, to me, there's this element of questioning that comes into play when you have so many different parties involved, that really created the environment for all these things to happen. And so to me, that it takes the blame to an elevated level where you have to look at the system that was created for Celia to exist. Because like the panelists before was saying, there were several people involved in this system of abuse. And that's really what it is. It's a system of abuse, the same way we're dealing with systems of conditioning where our families have been systematically, excuse me, I have a 2-year-old and he is just relentless. Let me move.
It's all good.
But, okay, so there is a system that we have to pay attention to where there are several different key players that have fostered an environment where pedophilia can exist. And like I said, silence is a huge part of that system. But we also have other key elements that come into play, like our social condition, or let me put that more specifically, our financial condition. Another panelist did mention that we have some situations where, okay, if my father is molesting me, I can't say anything because he's the only person that's paying the rent. And so it becomes the child's burden, and it becomes just a system that is created where pedophiles feel like they can move, undetected because they know what they can take advantage of and when, because there is a system. They study that system, and then they take advantage of the loopholes and the different can penetrate. And again, that is what I blame. I blame the system of pedophilia, and I want to say pedophilia enablers, where we're silencing the things that we should be examining. If a child, for example, has displayed behavior of abuse, instead of just calling your child bad or saying that you don't have anything to do, don't know what to do, we have to learn how to unpack these things. We have to learn how to go and find resources. We have to learn how to talk to our children, learn how to open up and allow expressions to take place. Because if we don't, then forever the system will be maintained by the silence. To me, the silence is what actually perpetuates and sustains the system itself. So, I like my brother said, you can't really place the blame totally on one specific person, like the parent or the child or the offender. You just have to understand they're all a part of the system.
All right. Once again, it's the Roundtable episode 43, family. Number to call in, 319-527-6239. You're now listening to Debate Talk Radio. We're talking about that recap. We're taking a recap of the Surviving R.Kelly series that happened on the Lifetime channel. A lot of people have watched it. A lot of people are talking about it all over social media, all in the news, things of that nature. Of course, we know there's going to be some consequences as the investigation goes on. But let's go to my brother Miha'el. Miha'el, who is to blame here? Let's talk about the parents in the situation. All of these parents that allow their teenagers to work with R. Kelly, who's to blame?
Yes, can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Yep.
Okay, yes, man. It was a lot of information being tossed back and forth right there, and I gotta say, up at this point, I agree with everything the sister Emunah was saying. I mean, she said some things I noted down I want to touch. The other beloved sister, I don't know her name. I'm sorry. She made some great points. The other brother that was on here, and even the brother who called in late. And concerning putting the blame on the parents, this why I say it starts with the parents, and that's like a gift. It's undeniable, but of course it extends past that, and it's with the community. They become cliche with the whole "it takes a village to raise a child," but to a degree that's true, because you can teach your children all the right things, and you're not going to be with them 24 hours. They're going to go out. They got other friends. And then in today's time, we don't even meet the parents of our children. Like how it was when I was coming up, my mom and old man wanted to know my friend's parents. 90% of the time now, you got all this social media, a lot of times, man, they don't even know the person that's on the other end of the internet. That could be some old Jewish dude in the basement burning goats. You know what I'm saying? You have absolutely no idea. But one main reason I like to say it starts with the parents, I like to use this comparison. It's a scripture, and forgive me for so speak on Bible thumping, but I'm really not. I look at it as a culture and not so much religious aspect. Because the sister brought up a very good point when she was saying our people in ancient times wasn't doing certain things. And I agree with her. And my mind went so many places with that. But I know we ain't got that much time. But it's a place in Deuteronomy where it talks about if a man build a house, right? And I'm paraphrasing. It basically tell you that you have to build, if your house is like higher than a story, 2 stories, you have to build like a porch on that house. Because if somebody up there fixing on your house and they fall off, or if somebody up there playing on your porch and they fall off, you have to put a balcony up there. They fall off and they die, that's blood on your hands. You're responsible for it. And I like to liken it to parenting. If you have children and you never talk to them, you never set any type of rules or boundaries or give them any type of discipline, and then they go out into the world and face certain obstacles in their life, it turns out bad for them, that's somewhat on you because you never set any balcony, in your own house. And, it was a point that was brought up about R.Kelly. I believe it was Sister Emunah. She had brought up the fact that, he had his own demons and how they was coming up in the house. And I've heard stories with all of them being molested and all of that. And she's absolutely right because he didn't deal with his own demons. You know what I'm saying? Before he became an idol himself. So now he's just a famous cat with demons. And a lot of times about unclean spirits, not saying unclean spirits in itself aren't real, but they manifest themselves in mental conditions. You know what I'm saying? Like if you look nowadays, the first thing they do is give you a pill. The pill is not exercising the unclean spirit. It's just leaving it dormant. That's all it's doing, for it to hang around. And so, this is one reason that I didn't really, like I said earlier before the brother called late, that I said on my show I didn't really deal with R.Kelly and himself from the celebrity ass, because, when y'all was talking earlier, y'all was saying how, like, do he need counseling and jail time? And it's funny because it's so many elements in his story, because when it comes to the Gentiles or the quote-unquote Europeans, that's the first thing they offer. If they say anything at all, if it's one of theirs, he has a problem. Let's just, get him some help. You know what I'm saying? They're not quick to criminalize him. But, of course, if it's a brother or a sister, it's going to be totally opposite. Not taking anything away from R.Kelly. Now, I want to touch this last thing because, and let the panel keep going. So, like I said, I got a lot of stuff I want to bring up. But the sister was bringing up the sayings, and I grew up in the 80s myself. And I got to say this, and some people are going to trip off this, but she's absolutely right. I remember hearing the saying, she said, if you're old enough for a period, then, well, where I was from, I guess they threw a remix on it. They used to say crazy stuff like, if she old enough to pee, she old enough for me. And what was another one? I remember they used to say, I take them 8 to 80, blind, cripple, crazy, bow leg, no leg, I'll take her. And it sounds funny.
Yeah, that's crazy, bro.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, and we used to repeat this stuff because we hear older cats say this stuff, and it just sounded funny. But now that you sit back and think of it, this is why we say it starts with the parents, but it goes out into the community, because I'm going to tell you one thing about a predator, and this is where us as the men, we have to step up, because we are the vanguards of our community. If we're not going to protect it, nobody is. I mean, if we waiting on the government and the white man to protect us, we will be obliterated. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not just saying this from a racial aspect. I'm saying it's just from a survival aspect. You can't make predators comfortable. Just to the brothers. Like, I remember, and I'm going to end with this. Sal, you know my story. A lot of people know my story. All these cats, some of these cats were some real unsavory dudes. I mean, you know, you had killers and all that. But you would always, every now and then, bump into this brother that everybody kind of know. Like, when we going out to holler at some sisters, you know, don't bring him because something wasn't ticking right with him. For one, he...
Yeah, it's kind of breaking up a little bit.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Continue.
You know, you would hear the stories like, man, that man, they said that brother, man, this sister said brother raped her, tried to rape her or something like that. So you have to make them uncomfortable as a man to let them know that type of stuff ain't cool. So if you know one of your associates or somebody you know is a creep, the first thing you got to do as men is let them know that type of weirdness will not be tolerated around us. So that's why I put a lot of the, I don't want to say blame because it's enough to go around, but I put a lot of the responsibility on our men. You know what I'm saying? So, one last thing, too. Let me say this because I know y'all going to feel me on this one. Like, the reason I say it is because they try to make you feel comfortable. In a minute, y'all see it, bestiality is going to be legal in this country. You see what I'm saying? They already got the group, what is it called, MAMDA or something, men that like little boys, Love Act or whatever. They like a Black Lives Matter group, and they serious. They're pederasts. You know, pederasts, if I'm not mistaken, are the ones who are attracted to the same sex, but children. And then, of course, you have pedophiles, which is, you know, children of the opposite sex. And so you got these grown men saying that they have a natural affection to little boys that they can't help. So I'm pretty sure it goes on with women and little girls. And they're literally making a move for this type of stuff. So, like, and, you know, people used to always ask me, like, man, you know, why the Bible got the right, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. Like Leviticus, the 18th chapter, Leviticus, the 20th chapter, you read, God has to go through a long list to tell you, look, you can't sleep with your sister. You can't sleep with your brother-in-law. You can't sleep with your auntie. If you do this, you're going to get killed. He had to make an example out of you because perversion, and it grows. And before you know it, people going to be walking down the marriage aisle with deers, goats, and everything else. So this blame goes on everybody, but as a man, we got to be the vanguards, man, and stop making weirdos feel comfortable. Shalom.
All right, no doubt. It's the Round Table, episode 43. I see we have a lot of listeners out there checking out the show, people on social media listening. We appreciate the family. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to chime in. That number is 319-527-6239. My email is open, salshowtime77@gmail.com. That's salshowtime77@gmail.com. You can send your questions or your comments, and I'll gladly read out your questions to the panel. But let's go back to my sister, Emunah. All right, Emunah. I mean, I've seen your videos. You know, you got, like I said, you already covered this stuff. And let's talk about what this is on public record about his brother, R.Kelly's brother, Kelly. That's his name. And how basically he broke some things down about how him and his brother R.Kelly got molested by their older sister. Let the people know about that. And what is it that family members and friends who are aware of pedophile are not saying? You know, why they don't want to say anything about when it comes to family and friends? Why people don't want to open up and expose their own family members? Let's talk about that as well when it comes to this pedophilia.
Wow. I think. Wow. Let me do the latter question first. I think it was touched on before as it relates to a fear factor, as well as a culture of silence, and historically nothing really being done, or if something is being done, it's the guilt of being in a system that already is against you, and so that thought of turning over the perpetrator, which is some type of relation to a system that historically has chastised you, it creates this space of conflict within the mind of the people, right? So it's like, this person has done something to hurt you, your family members, your children, but at the same time, the system has done something historically to hurt you, your family members, and your children. So you're giving a violator over to a violator. You understand? And so it's not like you are in a space or a culture that you created and that you are in charge of the court system and that you are in charge of the judiciary system. It's not like that. And so I think that that plays a lot into why there is this drawback historically for actually, bringing it to the forefront and seeking persecution, so to say. That's just my thoughts and my observation, just looking at the story, not only just story, but things that have happened in other spaces. Concerning his brother, he's done a number of interviews speaking about, let me rewind, R.Kelly did some interviews. One of them was on GQ. He also wrote in his book, also in this culture of silence, where he doesn't want to throw people under the bus, even though he was victimized. So even in his adult life, he didn't want to, quote, throw people under the bus. So he never gave any names. But his younger brother, Kerry, comes along and decides, I'm not down with that. And so he begins to name names. And one of the names that he names is his elder sister, all of their elder sister, Teresa, I believe her name is. And so that's kind of how he gives the breakdown. He does talk about not having witnessed R.Kelly's trauma, his molestation, personally, but he was able to put two and two together because it was the same thing that was happening to him. And according to him, when he did come to his brother at that time and try to tell him, he was kind of brushed off as, kind of dismissed, because that's when it was actively happening. And I have to submit one more thing that I was able to find out, and I'm going to drop it in this next video, is that a lot of them were talking about the mother having to work. And she's, in some spaces, a single mother who, according to the younger brother, if he would have told, there was no one else to watch them. So the sister was being used as a surrogate mother or the babysitter. And the concern was, what are we going to eat, or where are we going to live if my mother leaves? There's no one else to watch us if she has to stay home. And so it's kind of this, we need this individual. I heard somebody speak about it earlier. We need this individual. We're depending on this individual to supply for us. And so some of them, especially the males, kept it to themselves, because we talk about molestation of females in our community, but we don't often give as much credence to the male being molested as well. And so there's this extra stigma of the male being molested, especially by an older female. It's kind of a rite of passage. It's something that's passed off as woohoo, And in actuality, it has long-reaching effects, as we see today. With this case and many, many cases. And it's something, and I'm glad we're having this discussion, and prayerfully we continue to have these discussions. And the people who are qualified, who have the degrees, who are able to provide long-term counseling for the victims, at this time, in their own respective spaces, hopefully can make themselves available to give people guidance into what they should do and how they can begin their healing process.
All right. Yeah, let's go to Robert Reed. Yeah, Rob, like I said, there's people out there in the community that know people in their families that has done stuff like this. They've been covering it up for years and years and years. What do we do about that? Why are people covering up for, their family members? I know it's a sense of fear and things of that nature, but why are people doing things like that? And, the saga continues because, they do it from one person to the next. That.
Well, I think it goes back to what the sister was talking about. It's the system when we were talking about in the last segment, speaking on, who to blame. And she was talking about, it's kind of a systematic approach to it. And, I mean, for example, if I just bring it back up, it's like if the predator, if the molester is the breadwinner, in that situation, it's kind of hard to out that person or get rid of that person, because now all of a sudden the victim and the rest of the family is kind of out on the street or something like that. So there's a fear there. Then there's also a fear that it would be such a huge turmoil, or the family would just simply fall apart. There will be like civil war or something like that. So the victim may not want to say anything. The victim may feel like that somehow, some way, it's their fault. It's for a myriad of reasons. I think that sort of thing happens. They could be threatened. Sometimes the victim is threatened that you can't say anything or else, and you could just insert the threat after that. It's so many different ways, and then it's just the system is like that. In the case of someone in R.Kelly's position, like it's the dangling that carrot in front of you. You know, do what I want you to do, and you'll have this little carrot of, you know, you'll be the next Aaliyah. You know, I'll give you fame and fortune and all that other stuff. And you know, obviously it turned into something else. But it's so many different ways to keep that victim, you know, oppressed, and everyone's kind of keeping their mouth shut. And I think, and unfortunately, another one would be like, for instance, the parents being paid off. You know, if we've watched, you know, the series, then we see that when, for the most part, when R. Kelly was caught dead to rights, you know, he paid NDAs, you know, non-disclosures, and he just kind of paid them off. And it just kind of went away, that sort of thing. So it's such a myriad of things. I don't even know if we can name them all, but it's such a myriad of things, and all of them are deprived. All of them are really, you know, twisted reasons because an injustice has occurred. You know, when someone is molested, it's an injustice.
All right.
For all those reasons.
Oh. Yeah, you kind of broken up. That.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. You know, I'm just saying for all those reasons, I think many people don't say anything. But go ahead.
All right. Once again, it's the Roundtable episode 43, family. We're talking about the Surviving R.Kelly documentary series that came on the Lifetime channel. We're also talking about harboring pedophiles. Why do people harbor, you know, pedophiles? They know people for years that's been doing this stuff in the families. And they might have friends that do this kind of stuff. Why in our community do we keep this thing a secret? The number is 319-527-6239. And for those listeners out there, if you want to actually speak about your experience, the phone lines are open. So if anybody personally experienced these things, I know it's a hard thing to talk about, but if you want to bring out your testimony, so to speak, you can do so now. The number is 319-527-6239, or you can send me an email at salshowtime77. We're talking about that. So let's go to Sister Danielle. Let's talk about it. Are you there, Sister? Sister Danielle?
Yes, I'm here. So one of the things, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. You're live.
Okay. So some of the things that I kind of wanted to touch on after listening to what some of the other people said on the panel was, silence and isolation are tools used against the young prey, and that makes it difficult to hold the abusers accountable. But the reason why they're able to keep the youth silent and isolated are because of some of the things that have happened in history. Like Sister Reese said, she was talking about the things that have basically happened that wasn't natural in our culture, you know, in ancient times. But since slavery was introduced to our culture, it has been something that has been kind of sort of inbred, and it's not kind of uncommon anymore. But, you know, just to kind of take a look at, you know, just the abuse that dates back to our arrival in slavery in America, there were nonverbal and verbal messages that fostered sexual abuse in the community and encouraged the keep it silent message. Certain things like children were expendable, you know, don't get in grown folks' business. I heard one of the other panelists say that. Also, the burden put on the children to not be another problem. You know, you don't want to add stress to what your parents are already dealing with when you're already seeing them struggling with so many things. Also, the message of what happens in this home is stays in this home. It's nobody else's business. The culture wasn't to talk about sex very often. Children weren't taught that their bodies were their own. You know, a lot of times they were forced to show affection to family members without being asked if they were comfortable with it. They were usually exposed in poor families of living in families where extended family members are living there with them. The women were kind of sort of taught that they were to blame because of how they carried themselves or whatever. again, the value of purity just was not taught, in my opinion. And so we have done a good job of sweeping it under the rug and hiding it and things like that. But where there's darkness is going to manifest later on in later generations, in my opinion. So just taking a look at just the effects of slavery and just looking at it from a male perspective, and what's happening now is it has not been encouraged, it has not been organic for respect and trust to be between the female and the male, because if you go back to that inbreeding of what was inbred in us back in slavery times, you know, you take a wife that's being taken from her husband, getting taken in their raped and giving children to the slave owner, and then giving back to her husband who can't protect her and, you know, is in fear of life or death of his family or himself as well. So it creates a community of issues there that never got dealt with, that, again, like I said, therapy was never introduced. It was never accepted. It was just kind of swept under the rug because it was just something not talked about. It was just something that we just kind of sort of dealt with. Another thing that I kind of wanted to mention is emotional incest. A lot of times we open up and we expose our children to things that they are not ready for, and then they think that they're more mature than they are. And emotional incest, in my opinion, is when a guardian or someone that has influence over a child exposes them to adult issues and things that they're, again, not mentally ready or capable of handling. So I think that just, you know, backing off of what the panelists said and everything like that, there are effects. There are things that happen in generations, and you see it that, yeah, it's you want to hold the parents responsible, but, yeah, you do want to ask, well, why do they allow certain things to happen? So you want to dig deeper. But also touching on the last panelist while I wrap up, in just that the males don't get addressed as often because it does seem like it's a rite of passage. Another thing is we are taught that, or a lot of times it's understood that if you enjoy it and if it feels good, then it's not abuse. And we know that there are nerve senses in certain parts of your body that once you stimulate it, it's going to react. And so our children are not educated on things like this, and they may be ashamed that they enjoy something, and that's a way for the perpetrator to keep them quiet about it because they enjoyed it too. So, you know, yeah, now we're dealing with the PTSD issues and we're dealing with all of that, but we want to get to the resolution now. We want to see, like, how do we address it? How do we fix it? And I think that just brings us to addressing the silence issue and how do we break the message of be quiet. So that's my summing it up.
All right. Let's go to Sister Reese. Sister Reese, is this happening more than that's being spoken about in our communities? Do you think this is actually happening a lot more often than what's being said?
That's really hard to say. I'm going to talk briefly about the statistic I mentioned earlier about the high levels of abortion going on in our community. And I can only imagine that pedophilia is contributing to that high rate of abortion in the Black community. And that's just my speculation, but this is another epidemic which is not rooted in our history, our prehistoric history, our cultural history, and our DNA. We are not just inclined to voluntarily take life and to destroy life. And so I would assume that because of the system that is created to sustain pedophilia, I think there are several things that are going into the system and also several things that are coming out. There are different key players or stakeholders who are maintaining the system that enables pedophilia, and then you also have the things that come out as the manifestation on the other end or the output of that system. And so the equation, it all to me looks the same, where you have children who are, well, I want to say just children and women, period, who are overly sexualized by the male population. And I know that we have exceptions to the rule where you have like R.Kelly, for example, where the offender was a woman and she was the one who had the over-sexualized perception or the over-sexualized mentality. But in large order, in large, trending behavior, the offenders are largely male. And so I think that there's a lot to say about the sexual fantasies, sexual desires, and sexual attraction that's going on inside the male population, because this is where we see the dysfunction generally coming from. And I think the pedophilia has a lot to do with it. You have, I do think that pedophilia has a large contribution to the silence of sexual abuse. And I think that rape, of course, when you have a person that graduates from being a minor over into being an adult, it goes from pedophilia or molestation over to being simply rape, but it's still under the same category of sexual abuse, trending as, male offenders. And so there's just a correlation there that we have to pay attention to, especially because this is how we need to focus our attention on healing our men. We have to heal our men, because this is where these perversions are manifesting and coming out as a result of social conditioning. So it could be happening for a number of reasons. It could be happening more than we think or less than we think, whether it be pedophilia or other types of abuse, but it's still being perpetuated in a very specific way and by a very specific set of people. So we just have to, in my opinion, focus on those areas so that we can isolate them and then begin to perform like a root analysis where we're starting to say, I need to map out the algorithm. I need to map out the process, the pathology of what is happening in this trend, what is happening in the system. How is it beginning? How is it being maintained? And then how is it manifest? All of that, all of those components up piece by piece until we either dismantle the system or, restructure how it works so that it doesn't operate anymore. I don't know if that's even possible for us to affect so much change that we're, throwing culture into a whole nother tailspin of how are we handling pedophilia, how are we handling rape, how are we handling sexual abuse, period. So, there are quite a few things I think that are going into this whole happening of sexual abuse in the community.
All right, once again, that's Sister Reese right there, Debate Talk Free Radio. The number is 319-527-6239. We only have like about 25 minutes left on the air, family. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go to MariEL and I'm going to go to Miha'el. And after that, everybody on the panel, I want you to think about something that, in regards to this particular topic, that you want to bring out. So when I go back around the round table, whatever, questions I didn't bring out or whatever that you want to put out as far as comments are concerned in regards to this particular topic, think about that thought, because when we go back around, I'm going to go back and get your individual thoughts on this matter and bring out some things that we didn't discuss. But let's go to MariEL. Okay, MariEL.
Okay. A lot of great points. Actually, just about everybody sucked out, everything from my brain that I was actually going to bring up. But one thing I do want to say about like why a lot of that being kept from the families, or a lot of the turning into like family secrets or whatsoever, is due to embarrassment. A lot of people, or a lot of victims, are embarrassed about what's happening. Like, when it gets out, your dad did this to you, or your mother did this to you, or your sister did this to you. It kind of does leave like the whole idea of being, with the whole embarrassment still didn't go whatsoever, as well as, I also say that it's due to fear. Also wanted to bring out that what Reese said about it being systematic. Like if we look at society these days, it's highly, highly sexualized. So the whole idea of, I want to try this, or maybe I'll feel grown, or maybe I'll, feel more mature if I did this. And then, a lot of people play the manipulative game with that, as far as like, you can, I'll make you into a woman. You want to be a woman. And a lot of young people these days wants to have that whole idea of feeling older, mature, want to be like the grown up and everything like that. That they see like this is also a way to do it. Also, just like they probably won't say nothing because some of them feel like this probably is the right thing to do. It goes back to the manipulative factor. Like I see a lot of people who prey onto younger people or whatsoever. They see how easy their mind can be manipulated. So they'll say like, "Oh no, this is okay, or this is right. Oh, I can touch you there, or I can touch you there." Like they ain't gonna care about it. They ain't gonna care about it. I believe that's kind of what was going on, even with R.Kelly and his siblings or whatsoever, as well as with the predator. You don't have to be 30 years old to be considered a predator. Like his sister could have been very well just like around like probably 5 years older, but being exposed to so much sexuality that and the society doesn't help at all. It comes onto the TV, comes onto radio, comes onto different media platforms where they're exposed to this, and they were like, "Oh, I want to do this. I want to try this. Who can I do this for? I know I'm not going to get nobody who's my age, so I'm going to go with somebody who's younger." So it has a lot of blames or a lot of roles a lot of blames that it can just come in on, and where it's manipulative, is made, whether it's done out of fear, whether it's just done because they want to see something, because they're in the rush to be older, or to feel older, or even feel love. A lot of them see that this is the only way that they can actually feel love or affection. So they won't say nothing because, well, at least it shows that I'm being loved by somebody. So, hey, they see that on TV, like, oh, you do this, or if I kiss you like this or kiss you like that, that means that they love me. So I'm allowing them to do that. That's another back to the manipulative factor. But yeah, that's my take onto it. So, but yeah, with the panel, yeah, they pretty much swept everything that I was going to say. So hold on.
Yeah, most definitely. And actually, everybody on the panel, we getting a lot of compliments on social media about, how you guys are bringing out the information. So shout outs to you, everybody on the panel. And shout out to the people that's listening on social media, people on Facebook checking out the show. We appreciate you. People in groups that's checking out the show, Facebook groups. And remember, like I always say, if you're in a group, share it on your personal page. Let people know that Debate Talk for You is live on the air. And make sure you call in, ask your questions. Or you can email your questions, salshowtime77. So let's go to Miha'el, and then we're going to go back around in the round table. Go ahead, Miha'el.
Yeah, it's not too much more I can say than what they said. Like I said, it's been this has been an excellent panel you put together as usual, brother. But they all bring up good points, and it's like we can land back off each other. But one of the things, it was brought up earlier, a big problem with us as a people, as a community. I think, the sister was saying how, like, taboo it is. There's a lot of things that we may have heard, in certain families and stuff, and it's like, you don't address that for certain reasons, whether it's shaming the child or whatever. But it's like we got this condition. So, like, I know I'm 100% Negro. Because when I say that, I mean it on like a spiritual level, because I suffer from it. It's kind of silly, but just to make my point, I've been battling with an infection in a wound for the last almost 3 weeks. And I did everything, took all the little herbs and, and teas and chewing grass and everything, because I don't want to go to the hospital. And this is like a condition we have overall as the people. We think if we ignore something, it's going to go away. You know what I'm saying? It's like normally, a situation like that, I just pray, get anointed, take some herbs, and I heal up. But this time, I prayed, took the herbs, and it's not that the prayer don't work. It's like God, like, dummy, go to the hospital. You know what I mean? And that's how we have to look at things realistically. You know what I'm saying? It's like if you don't watch your children and really watch them, like, how would you know if they've even been traumatized in some type of way if you really don't pay them attention? Somebody was kind of alluding to that earlier, and I agree with that. It's like, little Timmy, you know what I'm saying, acting strange, because somebody had brought up that term, hurt people. And that's absolutely true. You know what I'm saying? It's like, we like to say little things like he just bad or she just bad. And it's like, but sweetheart, little Timmy just put a whole cat in the microwave and put butter on it. That ain't bad. That's a problem. Because 10 years from now, somebody like that is going to do what? He's going to have some extra lumps in his backyard, and them ain't going to be no regular garden. You see what I'm saying? And I'm honestly not trying to be funny. A lot of these people out here you see that's crazy, or they perverts, or they pedophiles and pederasts and rapists and all this type of stuff, something was done to them when they was younger. And this is their way. This is the only way they know to lash out. And I'm not saying that 100% of the time, if you intervene, that child may not turn into a menace to society. But I can tell you one thing, 100% of the time, if you don't intervene, then you got nobody to blame but yourself when they do turn into a menace to society. And so, my whole thing is, like I said, the sisters and the brothers just make, some excellent points. Everything they said starts at home. It spreads to our community. But I think the number one thing is because, we just can't go out there and stone cats and beat them down no more. You know what I mean? Back in the day, you could kind of take it on yourself, street justice type thing, but, that's just basically a lot of 9 times out of 10 going to cause more problems that already exist. So my whole thing is prevention, and I think it was the sister, not Emunah, but the other beloved sister, sorry, I didn't get the names, was saying basically, all that is with communication, man. Communication, and I think that's really the key. We have to communicate with our children. Yeah, you let them know you the adult. They the child. There's certain stuff, like they used to tell us, don't be mannish and all that. Because a lot of these kids now will cuss you out. They like the little European kids. They just cuss you out if you let them. So you got to still hire that authority, but at the same time, you want them to be able to know that they can come to you and talk to you. You know what I'm saying? Because if they scared to talk to you, you best believe they're going to talk to somebody, and they're going to go around and mess around and talk to the wrong person, and they might feed that evil spirit. And so, yeah, man, I think the number one thing we need to do is communication. So I'll let the next person go.
All right, once again, it's 319-527-6239, 239. We only have a few minutes left. Let's go back around the round table. Let's go back to Emunah. Emunah, yeah, whatever we didn't uncover tonight, whatever, put it out there, any information that needs to be heard, it's your time. Go ahead.
All right, I want to thank, as Brother Miha'el said, it was an excellent discussion tonight. There's so many angles at which you can approach the story. There's so many lessons. There's so many cautionary tales that we can learn, and prayerfully, that's really my desire at looking at this and actually spending the amount of time that I did. Can point the finger out there and say that's what's happening over there, but that's not happening over here. We're missing the point. There's actually an organization, and I spoke about this sister before, just called Tell Somebody, and it's a young sister out of California who has started a whole organization about giving those who have been violated by sexual abuse the voice or the courage to tell somebody, and they can do it through anonymity or they can put their face to it, and it's a space where there's a community of survivors telling their stories, and it's a very positive, I think, step in the right direction as it relates to healing, where someone can own, this story, not necessarily own the responsibility of the perp if you were a child, but no longer run for it and allow it to dictate your life, because when we are injured, when we have experienced that level of sexual trauma, it manifests itself in different areas of our lives. And so if we learn anything from this story, we learn that this is happening and can happen in our communities, and we have to be prepared to talk about it and deal with it, because you will be the one that's standing out there oftentimes by yourself, because people are not, we're not, sometimes, I don't know, it's weird, but we're not as offended as if someone had did something else. And that speaks to whether or not our community really cares about or is in the mental space to guard and protect our girls and the women in our communities. But with that said, I'm going to continue the dialogue on my side. I do have a second presentation prepared, and it's just some things to be considered. And I'll just say this, and I'll pass the mic. When I raise an issue like the probability of fetal alcohol syndrome, that speaks to the stress is nice. It crosses barrier lines. This is a space, when I began to look up the organization that's here, it doesn't really get that much traction. It doesn't really get that much attention. But how many women are pregnant and take a sip? You know what I'm saying? How many doctors say, a glass of wine every now and then won't hurt the child? Does anybody know, or are we talking about the possible effects of drinking alcohol while pregnant? You understand what I'm saying? So hopefully these things that we begin to discuss along the way open up the door for us to have dialogue and conversations about things that we otherwise would just brush under the rug. So, again, I'm Solonomics on YouTube. Definitely stop by. Let me know your thoughts. Push back if you don't agree. And hopefully we can, continue the discussion and get to some type of resolve. So with that said, thank you for inviting me, Brother Sal, and I relinquish the mic.
All right. We thank you, of course, Emunah. Let's go to Robert Reed. Robert Reed. Matter of fact, where are you? I think hold up. I think he left. Yeah. All right. Let's go to MariEL. MariEL got it.
All right, shalom. All right, well, yeah, it was a great topic. I think a lot of people hit a lot of points, said a lot of things that I would have said personally, even more. It was a great build and everything. I think a lot of things got out. What I would like to say to everybody who's around is, like the brother said, communicate. Like, definitely understand your children, understand other people's behavior. Even like the caller said, just know the environment that you're in, the environment that's being exposed to. Don't fully trust everybody that you come in contact with. You never know, what their agenda is. Always get to know the person before you fully commit to something with them. Also, be very mindful. Yeah, that's pretty much just be very mindful of the environment that we are exposed to, a society that we're being exposed to today, and work with your children, especially at a young age, to know what's right or wrong. If you read the scriptures or whatsoever, that's one of the first things that the Most High taught, was to know what is right, and what is wrong, and express what is right or what is wrong. They have to know what the reason is. Don't just say, I don't want you to do this because, or because I said so, or because I'm the parent. But let them know why or what the consequences from going behind it. Like, children are people too, and they have the ability to understand just like you have the ability to understand. So give their understanding a shot in the sense of knowing why they need to do this or why not to do. They don't need to do this. And if anybody's, being exposed to being molested with a young age or whatsoever, try to work on it. Try to deal with it. Try to, talk to somebody about it. So you can, get past that, because I do know that actually affects us, in life. Later on down the line will become damaged, and sometimes we don't even know that we're damaged, but we're actually damaged, and it can affect a lot of people. And like brother said or sister said, hurt people, so you don't want to be one of those people who actually hurt people. But with that being said, shalom to everybody, peace. Talk to you later, sis Reese. Talk to you a little bit later. And Sal told I for letting me come onto the panel and express my thoughts and opinions, and also want to end by saying I pray for the Most High, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov, and peace be all to all. Shalom.
All right, shalom. We appreciate you. And like MariEL said, basically, if you know something, say something. There's a lot of secrecy going on in the community because their family members, people getting a pass, because it's their brother, their fathers, their uncles, their sisters, their mothers, things like that. But when things like this happen in the community, something has to be said. I don't understand this. You don't want to be embarrassed and the fear of the backlash from people that you know, but this have a long-term effect when things like this happen and then nothing's being said. So shout out to MariEL for his input. Let's go to Sister Danielle. Sorry about that.
Yes, I'm here. So it has been a very, very interesting and informing topic. I've learned a lot as well from just listening to the other panelists. But just to wrap up my thoughts, one thing that I want to say is all abuse is damaging. Psychological damage is done from the introduction of the experience. The innocence is no longer present once they are introduced to an experience. The effects of sexual abuse are long-term and devastating. Depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, alcoholism, low self-esteem, all those things lead to addictions of all sorts, promiscuity, prostitution, the acceptance of more physical abuse, and lack of respect for themselves, from their children. It affects the community. The lack of ambition and goals, they become liars, they seek instant gratification, they walk in darkness. And those are some of the things that we see as the effects of abuse and the negligence that they've endured as children. And I just want to also mention that according to police reports, about 14% of young victims of sexual assault are males. About 22% of that abuse is committed by women. So it is something that definitely needs to be addressed. We need to address what's happening with the men and stop thinking that it's okay, it's a rite of passage because these men become abusers to women and your daughters later on. Another thing that I really hesitate bringing up, but we didn't talk about it, so I just kind of want to mention it, is a lot of times in the African-American community, we deal with religion and churches, and a lot of times people stay quiet because they have ministers in their family or the position, and they are encouraged to be quiet to protect the ministry. And I also think that needs to be addressed as well. And then finally, since, we've said all that, I just want to say that we have to create a safe environment. And until we build the trust between the father and the mother and in the home and rebuild that connection, we don't have the energy, the synergy necessary to move us forward. We need that feminine and that masculine energy to uplift us and to lead us forward. And we can't do that when there's all these trust issues going on and we're divided. So we have to figure out a way to rebuild that trust issues, because 60% of our young women being violated before the age of 18 is just too high. So I would just say break the silence. If there's a secret in your family and nobody has been willing to support you in your silence, seek me out. I am on D&D Live on Facebook. You can inbox me there. I'm more than willing to help you, support you. I have an organization as well. Next time I will be more prepared in providing that to Sal. But I do appreciate the privilege of being on the panel tonight. So thank you to everybody, and shalom.
Yeah, sister, I appreciate you coming on the panel. Definitely, we're going to hear from you again and bring you back on. A lot of great input you brought to the panel, as well as everybody. Like I said, we're getting people on social media saying excellent show. They appreciate the content brought out by everyone that was on the panel. And, of course, we're going to do more discussions like this on Debate Talk Free Radio. Let's go to Sister Reese, final words, and also, anything that wasn't brought out, you can bring it out now. Okay.
All right, thank you. I did have one thing I wanted to say, which is also a note on my personal mission and my personal message, which is to help my brothers to become clear. What I can tell about a lot of mental dysfunction is that it's simply rooted in things like a lack of self-awareness, a lack of identity, a lack of a sense of belonging, a lack of expression, a lot of different things that go into emotional intelligence. Our men just simply don't have the capacity for it. They don't have the ability to sort of express themselves in very specific ways. And I think that has a lot to do with their level of happiness in society. Of course, we know that also comes from social conditioning, but I do think that our men need to become more vocal about how they feel. I know that men are groomed from the age of, from being a young boy on up into manhood, that you being expressive in your emotions is not something that is, tolerable. It's not something that's expected. It's kind of shunned upon for a man or a young boy to express himself. And I think that is a huge happiness inhibitor. And I think that, of course, like many other things in our society, that manifests in so many different ways. And I can only imagine how many sexual dysfunctions come out of a lack of being able to express certain things, especially if a young man has certain ideas about sexuality that he's not able to express in this society, because we have a heavy westernized society that we're living in, and all of these cultural messages coming from a culture that is not ours is really manifesting itself in ways that naturally would make us unhappy, because it's out of our natural spiritual element that we're trying to act and behave and engage with our environment and with each other in our community. So it's coming up in more dysfunction than it is functional when we come together and when we engage with each other. That's the reason why this idea of being divided and conquered is continually perpetuated, because we're systematically allowing ourselves to live out and play out the westernized culture or the westernized ideals and philosophies in our community, and that's not appropriate. We need to learn how to separate the pathologies that are coming from westernized, Europeanized culture down to us. A man feeling the need to force himself sexually onto another person who is more than likely going to be less powerful than he is, especially physically and mentally, that has very serious implications in the ego and, just levels of consciousness where a man is not able to see himself as anything but this sexual identity that is given to him by his society. And we already know that Black people, period, are over-sexualized by Caucasians. Their women over-sexualize our men, and their men over-sexualize our women. And they over-sexualize our men, too. They just automatically, we must be really sexy to them because they on us. And the things that they have imagined, the things that they have manifested in their psyche has been trickling down to us. And we have to start analyzing the fact that our men need an identity sexually other than what has been given to them in this culture and what we've accepted in this culture. That's, to me, the biggest truth out of all of this, is that we need another identity to move forward with, because the sexual identity we share now with each other between man and woman is completely faulty, and, we need to re-engineer it.
All right. Once again, we appreciate you. Guess what, y'all? I got an email now. Now that we're trying to wind down, I got an email, but it's a quick question, and I'm gonna go with everybody real quick, and I'm gonna read it out to you guys. Are you guys listening to R. Kelly music? Do you have a favorite R. Kelly song? Would you still listen to his music now? And is that hypocritical if you don't support what he does but still listen to his music? All right. Quickly, you can answer that. Yeah, MariEL, answer that question.
Do I still listen to R. Kelly? My Isha loves R. Kelly, so it's kind of like, she's kind of on the side where she's like, well, I still listen to his music. Is it hypocritical? I think it's more of like, okay, well, we enjoyed the entertainment of the songs or whatsoever. It's kind of like just being, in conscience or in the walk or whatsoever, to still kind of listening to worldly music or something like that. As long as you don't do what he does, you're just kind of in it for the entertainment kind of stuff like that. But me personally, no, I never really listened to R. Kelly. I respect his talent, though. But if I had to pick a favorite song, it would be I Believe I Can Fly, I guess, because it was like just how inspirational it was. Even on the series, it was said to be like very inspirational or whatsoever. But I kind of separate him in his personal life, or what he did in his personal life, with just the whole aspect of music. So So, but that's my little take on that stuff.
All right. Let's go down the line. Let's go to Sister Reese.
I think that for me, I'm just going to speak personally. I know how to separate the man from the music. And so I don't feel a need that if an R. Kelly song pops up in my playlist that I have to immediately skip past it, especially because I believe in a person's, personal experience. If I have, my brother MariEL just said, if a song comes on that I personally identify with, like I graduated to the I Believe I Can Fly song, I'm not going to skip it in my playlist or take it off. No. I mean, the man did something, he did something ridiculous. But no, I'm not going to mute R. Kelly, though.
Okay, I hear you, no doubt. Let's go to Miha'el. Right. I know he's from the Chi-Town, too. Don't say he's from the Chi-Town. He's from Chicago.
On the spot. I didn't give the parting shots out, so I like to say I'm gonna answer the question. So no, I'm not buck dancing. I just want to say, if y'all can check it out Tuesday night at 6 Central Time on Solar Vision Debate League. It's the semifinals. I will be debating another Hebrew brother by the name of Claim Your Inheritance, and the subject is the 12 Tribes Chart legit? And I think that's going to really be real interesting for all of Israel. Also, you check out my Hebrews in the Hood YouTube channel. Now, with the question, is it hypocritical? Do we listen to R. Kelly? Will we still listen to R. Kelly? And if so, what is our favorite song? Well, man, I ain't going to sit up here and lie. I don't just, sit around bumping R. Kelly all day because, even when we play R. Kelly, you, had to be in a certain mood. So you would normally, be with your old lady or something. But I would be sitting here lying. I mean, it's no different than I would still watch a Kevin Spacey movie. And, they didn't find out he ran here touching on men's bun. You know what I'm saying? It's certain movies I still watch, and a lot of these actors have done equal to what he's done is worse. But I would have to say, I'm not tearing at the house, digging in crates looking for no R. Kelly song. But that, ironically, my favorite one was When a Woman's Fed Up. And it's a lot of women fed up now. That they find out what he...
Go ahead.
Yeah, she's in Illinois. Yeah, man. So, I still listen to it. You know what I'm saying? It's just funny you said that because I think, little kids, the sister had brought something up earlier, and it really touched me when she was saying how, when they doing this to these kids, because we don't want to lose focus, I want to part in a good way. I think the worst part about a crime, especially just pedophilia, I'm not just talking about R. Kelly, but pedophilia away from a kid. You know what I'm saying? Take the innocence away from the kid. And it's just so funny because sometimes I just look at the little kids I be around, and I'm looking at him, and he'll just say something out the blue, and it'll shock you, wow, where did that come from? But it's supposed to amaze you because he's a babe. He's only thinking about having fun, living life, loving, and being happy. Why would you corrupt that in a child and do something to them, sexual, when they not even developed to handle certain situations like that? As a matter of fact, a lot of adults are not able to handle that. That's why our community is so messed up. So I think the worst part of that whole crime is the selfishness and the wickedness in it to take innocence away from something that should remain that way until God says otherwise. So with that, I say, man, peace to the panel. I enjoyed it. Love you, Brother Sal, and shalom, shalom.
All right, man. Appreciate you. I see we got a caller standing by. I'm going to get to you, 312. Stand by, but let's get to Emunah. Go ahead, Emunah.
Okay, the first question, like I said before, I don't really even listen to a lot of popular music, to tell you the truth. I don't listen to a lot of radio. I may listen to some reggae. So as it relates to R. Kelly, I would have to really go out of my way to listen to an R. Kelly song, which I don't. You know what I'm saying? So that's my thought on that. I heard that this is one of the criticisms or one of the spaces in which the people are conflicted. I think that's another whole topic that we can explore, the power of music and how it embeds in our consciousness, and how even if you never listen to another song again, it's still there. You know what I mean? And so that's something.
Hey, that's a good topic, Emunah. Good topic.
And that's a good topic because that's what we're speaking about, and I don't think I can do it justice as we're at the bottom of the 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock hour, because that's the reality of what, like the sister said, is connected emotionally. And this is why what he's done, and musicians as well, have so much power, right? Because they connect to you emotionally, and that bypasses our conscious reasoning. You know what I'm saying? So, like, a lot of people, if you go into the videos, they'll be like, I don't care what he did. Y'all ain't getting me to give him up. You know what I'm saying? And then you have to explore that thought to say, well, what is that? And how do we really address it? And is this playing into what we're experiencing now? So I know I posed, well, is it hypocritical? I think we should come back and have that discussion. But everybody have a blessed night.
There we go. Good topic. No, to be continued. I ain't gonna lie, y'all. I'm gonna let y'all know I was a big R.Kelly fan. I got his albums and all kind of stuff. So, yeah, when I heard this stuff that came out, I mean, I'm like, wow. It was. I mean, I don't listen to secular music like that anymore. I was like, wow. R.Kelly did this stuff, so it was kind of like, heartbreaking because again, I was a R.Kelly fan. But let's go to get this caller 312-885. You're live.
Grace and shalom. Like to say, first of all, thanks to the Most High for allowing you to let me get on here after I forgot to get back with you. Brother Sal, this is out of K Fingers, man.
Hey, what's going on, my brother? What's happening, man?
How you doing, man? How you doing? Yeah, man. Like I've been saying, man, ever since I became a single father, man, I've been so busy, and I don't be getting back to people. So I do want to apologize for that. I took a nap when I got home from work. I looked up and I saw Brother Miha'el was on. I was like, oh, that's the night. So I haven't listened to everybody's stuff, but I would like to give another point of view when it comes to this whole thing, when it comes to Rob. First of all, I knew Rob when he first started because me and him were both signed to the same label and the same publishing company, right? And that's when he was with Public Announcement. What I noticed when I was deeply into the music industry is that egos get big the more money and the more power you get. And that's what I noticed about my brother and a couple other brothers that's big too right now. Now, what he did in the past, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because what he did in the past, the Lord tells us to give us mercy if we want to give mercy too, right? So the way I look at it is that the brother did what he did in the past and it was exposed then, but my question has been, and I didn't watch the documentary on purpose, all right, just because, like I said, I knew him at one time. And so my thing is, has he continued to do that ever since then? There hasn't really been any evidence that, and I'm talking about with pedophilia, all right? We do know that he's had women over the age of 18 and all of that stuff. Now, again, I want people to understand I'm not defending R. Kelly, but I just want to throw this out here for people to understand. When you've been in the business for so long and you gather so much money and you get ready to buy your own publishing back, the smear campaign comes. And to me personally, that's what I think is going on right now. Because, again, I don't know if he had a sex ring going on. I don't know if he had underage girls. But what I've seen, and we've all seen it over and over and over again, when it comes to Israelites industry. Because the first thing that happens, and I've went through these trials myself, the first thing that happens is they try to cater to whatever your sin is, your preference sin. Remember, Satan runs everything. And they try, once they find it, they continue to let you do it, but as long as you're making them money, you get away with these things. All right, this is why back in the day when these things came up, the trial said he was not guilty. But see, now that the brother and his other brothers too. Y'all keep your eyes on Chris Brown. Now that that Israelites are realizing all the money is in the publishing and they're trying to get it, the smear campaign comes. They're all of the old sins that you did gets brought up, and the Lord even said that in Amos. What is that? Amos 3. I'm gonna get you 7 times more for your. No, that's Leviticus. I'm gonna get you 7 times more for your sins. So what I've always been doing ever since I've gotten out of the music industry is try to have campaigns of showing what you're going to get into, what's going to happen if you get in there. Are you willing to do that? Because if you are, you're going to pay the price now, later, or even when the Lord comes, you're going to pay that price. So personally, I think what's going on right now is a smear campaign. So I just wanted to throw that out there on the table as well, because we've seen it with Bill Cosby. We saw it with Prince. I don't think they could get good things on Prince, so we saw what happened to him. Same thing with Michael Jackson. It's going on with this cat. People were suspecting that Whitney Houston was trying to get her publishing too. That's why her and her daughter were killed. And now we're seeing it with R.Kelly, and now Chris Brown and Kanye. Both of them are trying to get their publishing. What we need to do is also pray for these brothers, for them to be safe and repent from whatever sins they have done, because our so-called enemies are trying to make sure that they're destroyed so they do not get the money that they're supposed to get. So that's all I wanted to say, man. I just wanted to throw that out there, man. Like I said, I'm not defending the cat. Yeah. But it's another angle everybody needs to look at.
There you go. I hear you, man. It's good to put that. It's important to put that other angle out there, and we definitely got to bring you on the show, my brother. I know you're a busy man, so we can speak on more on these type of things. But, interesting angle that you brought forth. And, of course, I appreciate you. I'm going to let the people, special guests chime in on that real quickly, too. You winding down, but let everybody, if they want to respond, they could. Sister Reese, you want to respond to that?
I'm sorry? You said what?
Oh, yeah. Anything that you heard that you want to respond to, or you want to just move forward? It's okay.
Oh, the smear campaign. I'm sorry. I was listening. I had a brain fart real quick. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So I understand that there is a certain level of, the powers that be that come into play with a lot of celebrities having behind-the-scenes transactions that affect what happens in the public eye. Just for the sake of saying it, that it would not have been a campaign to even smear if he had not taken part in these things. And so I get that this may be happening, and we may be all becoming aware of it because of some behind-the-scenes things, and they probably would have kept it silent if he had not been trying to move forward with his plans. But I still think it's a lot to be said, the fact that he still had enough evidence to come to light and all these things to be said, even in the smear campaign, to get the public against him, so that he wouldn't be able to move forward with his plans. But I also want to just say quickly that as far as the whole mute R.Kelly, people calling to mute his music, problematic for me, because Trey Songz specifically, he sings about rape like he's singing about the love of his life. He sings very rapey music. And I'm just like, why is nobody wanting to mute or silence him? Or why are there no smear campaigns into his sexual activities? Because he's had a couple of little questionable things come out too. So I definitely can understand this angle of a smear campaign, because you do have other situations that are just as applicable as what R. Kelly has done or is doing, or has, whatever evidence he has. I'm pretty sure there are people all throughout Hollywood who could be just as easily brought up on the same charges in the public eye, but we don't see that happening because they're not trying to buy their publishing. So I don't think that it excuses the activity. I do think that there's something to say about one of the brothers that said this at the very beginning about the fact that we get distracted so easily. For a real issue with society, and if it were a real issue that we all wanted to see, rectified, or we all wanted to see it settled, I don't think that we would just only wait for the powers that be to present us artists or present us an offender on a platter for us to all rain down on this one person, but then ignore all of the lot of the rest of the issues that go around it, with this one centralized person being the focus of the brunt of the our judgment and our criticism. I think we need to start thinking about the entire picture. Again, Trey Songz is an issue. He's a real issue. And the music that, or these girls, what's these girls' names? City Girls. To me, they promote sexual misbehavior in young girls. And they, to me, will continuously add into this system that I'm referencing about maintaining these systems for pedophilia to exist. So, I mean, yeah, it could be a smear campaign, but at the same time, we still have to look at everything that goes into the topic itself. And then, just because it's a smear campaign doesn't mean we don't still have work to do outside of that.
Sister Reese. Let's go to Emunah, and we're going to pretty much wrap up. Let's go to Emunah. Go ahead.
Oh, boy, like I said before, that's a whole nother topic. Go ahead and schedule it in. It's a whole nother topic. I'm not going to hold everybody up. Definitely something to be considered. These topics are so expansive because there's so much. It's compacted that we kind of need to parse it out and unpack it so that we don't negate one for the other. All are equally important in their own space and should be allotted their space for us to impact them. You know what I'm saying? Because if you talk about the smear, then it overshadows the abuse and vice versa. If you talk about, you see what I'm saying? So they all need their rightful spaces to be discussed and explored, in my estimation. But with that said, I want to thank everybody for tuning in, and I'll give it back to you, Brother Sal.
Everybody pressing number one there. You got somebody else pressing number one. Okay, we're going to get to you 404. I'm going to get to you. Hold on. Let's go to Miha'el real quick, though. Miha'el, go ahead. You want to chime in? You can chime in.
Yeah, thanks, because our show was about to inbox you. First off, I really want the sister Emunah's YouTube channel so I could check out. I'll always enjoy.
I'll send that to you. I'll send that to you.
Hey, so send that. And you got to subscribe to me too, sister, if you haven't already. Hebrews in the Hood. And I wanted to bring that up, but like you said, that's a whole nother. And I knew my brother Ozza knew about that. You know what I'm saying? Because he used to be pretty big time in the music industry. I ain't gonna put it out there, but
say what's up to your boy, Asa. Your line is open, Asa. Say hello, man.
Hey, I'm about to say it. He's gonna get mad at me, but it's a cut. And every you ain't got to worry about it because ain't nobody getting urinated on or nothing like that. But our brother is responsible for that song, and it's the Will Smith "Summertime." It's the brother that made that, and that's just crazy because that's one of my favorite songs. But I'm thinking to the flip side of that coin, that is the exact reason when I first opened up, like the sister Emunah said, that was me. Why I was saying I didn't want to put the celebrity aspect on it if we was going to talk about it. Because like y'all said, you don't want it to overshadow the subject that is really happening. It's really a fact. But being that the celebrity aspect is on there, then you got to go into the whole, these blood oaths and all this type of, gay and pedophilia stuff that's going on. So I think that right there is a whole nother show. And maybe next week after my debate on Tuesday, if y'all want to get together and go deeper into just the whole evil side of that whole entertainment industry and how the music can control and influence people, then I definitely do it.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's the main reason why I got out of it. When I realized how much it can control people and control you, that was the end of it for me.
Man, we got to do a show on that, brother. We got to get you on the show for that one. You got to get you on the show for that one right there. All right, man. Hold on. We got somebody else pressing number one, y'all. Hold on. Let me see what they got to say real quick. 404, you're live.
Yeah, man, you know what? I think that I've heard a very fair assessment of what's going on so far. And, man, well, look, I'm a licensed therapist, a clinical therapist, and I've seen a lot of strange behaviors. And a lot of these strange behaviors the black community tends to overlook. But we also need to start exercising some damn common sense. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. The brother that spoke before the sister here mentioned a lot of things that I resonated with. And to sort of build on his point, think about this. Allegedly, Bill Cosby's best friend was Hugh Hefner. Now, according to what I've heard, Bill Cosby had almost his whole wing in the Playboy Mansion. So you had a whole host of very young and attractive women there at his disposal. Yet it's claimed that he date raped some women who had questionable beauty. All of this after America slapped him with the term America's dad. Thing happened with Michael, others, you know, and it's like, wait a minute. We all remember R.Kelly from the 90s. He could have had any woman he wanted, especially our mothers. So why then would he need to go that route? Now, I'm just saying, Martin Luther King said before he died that before they assassinate you, they assassinate your character. And I believe the brother's right. We better watch Chris Brown. Remember that fiasco with Chris Brown a couple years ago? Where they had him all on the news, the police raided his house and all that stuff. Remember that?
Right.
Yeah. We better start paying attention, man.
Yeah, because what's going on now is, you know, he's being accused of rape now.
Yeah, that's right.
And then again, it just came out that he's, the youngest person to own his masters? That's like unheard of when it comes to Israel. You know, owning your own. A lot of artists, even if they're Gentiles or whatever, but that's just not heard of because there's so much money to be made off your masters and publishing.
That's right. And, you know, look, we don't even have to get into the metaphysical aspects of this, quote, conspiracy. I mean, all we have to do is just look at the people that they promote. I mean, come on, the President of the United States was quoted as saying, grab them by the you-know-what. Mm-hmm. And look at the name Hugh Hefner made for himself and others. I'm just saying, at some point, we got to start calling a spade a spade. And for real, now to the sister's point, when you think about the whole cheerleading industry, and a lot of mothers think this is cute and this kills me. Why on God's green earth would you allow your daughter, why would you hand over your subconscious mind, the subconscious mind of your daughters, to a whole industry that's hell-bent on the rape culture? Why would you do that? I mean, little girls as young as 5, 6 years old, skimpy, skirts, jumping up, splitting their legs in the air. I mean, damn, if you took a bloody corpse to the ocean and threw it out, you'd be surprised if sharks didn't come out, would you? You know? So what's the difference as far as I'm concerned? I mean, look, I have 3 little girls, and you got to understand, I know that if something happened, I'm ready to go to jail, and it's going to be damn hard to catch me for them. You see what I'm saying? So some of us don't play that shit. But you got to understand too, man.
Keep it clean, brother. Keep it clean, though.
Yeah, you're right. My bad. I mean, that kind of gets me worked up because there's always this double standard. We talk about really protect the children, and I'm gonna close with this. There's an old saying. An old man told me this a long time ago, and it's creepy sounding, but it's fair. Like we say in the South, it's hard, but it's fair. What he said was this: control your subconscious mind or someone else will. It's just that simple, right? So you're giving your children's subconscious mind over to the same pedophiles that are handing over R.Kelly to people like you. They did the same thing with so-called America's Dad and other folks that a lot of people looked up to.
All right, man. Yeah, listen, man. You brought a lot of good information out tonight, man. You know, the call is bringing it tonight. Special guests, everybody's bringing it tonight when it comes to this particular topic, man. And we definitely going to do probably maybe a follow-up or a segue as far as the music industry, things like that. You know, we got to talk about the psychological effects that certain music has. You know, all kind of things when in regards to this particular topic. Again, I appreciate the family out there for tuning in. There's no show on Friday, family. We don't have any show Friday this week, but next week we have a lot more show for you guys. Debate Talk for you is on the air from usually Monday to Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Check out the website, www.blogtalkradio.com/Debate Talk for you to see the schedule. You can also follow me on social media at Sal Showtime on Facebook, Debate Talk for you on Instagram. And Twitter is Showtime DT for you. That's Showtime DT for you. Follow the brand if you want to support. If you like the show, you want to keep us on the air because, you know, Blog Talk, we have monthly fees that we got to pay in order to remain on the air. You can help out and donate by going to PayPal and use the email, debatetalk4, letter U @gmail.com, or you can use Cash App. And my tag name is $Sal Showtime. Again, any contribution that you make will go towards keeping Blog Talk Radio, Debate Talk View on the Blog Talk Radio airwaves every month. So we appreciate the family that's been donating to the program and keeping us on the air. We appreciate your family. We're going to see you next week. Take care, and God bless.